Welcome to Karate 360.
I'm Kalan Anglos.
I'm Richard Mosdell.
Welcome, guys. This is episode number 1, and really excited to get this started.
Absolutely fantastic. We've been practicing using the equipment and the bigger purpose. Why Karate 360? Let's dive into that because I can't wait.
It's been, obviously a monumental last, 3 weeks, I guess now, almost a month now, for karate athletes and karate coaches around the world. And, everybody's buzzing, obviously. So it's a good time for sure.
Karate is in the Olympics.
It's huge. I remember, since I was a kid, maybe when I was a young kid, I never really thought about it. But coming up as a karate athlete, it was like everybody was talking about Karate 360. Like, you remember the K is the way kind of campaign type thing that started, 2006 maybe, something like that, 2008. And then, here we are in the Olympics, official, and here we go. It's looking good.
K is on the way. K has arrived.
K is here, yeah.
K has arrived.
Yeah. It's super exciting.
And, we got the podcast going.
Yeah.
360, a complete look at whatever we want to look at in the karate world.
Yeah, whenever I tell somebody, oh, hey, we're doing a podcast, and they say, well, what's it called? Karate 360. And they kind of, oh, okay, well, I don't really get it. It's like, well, we're going to not just be doing karate stuff, like it's Karate 360, everything to do with karate and, martial arts and anything that encompasses. That's what it is. So
absolutely,
yeah, listen in.
and we've saved you guys the names that we previously were thinking about.
Oh, there was some thoughts there. That's for sure. That's good. And hopefully this sounds as good for you guys as it sounded for us when we were doing our trials and running through our practices. But
we practiced all right.
We sure did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we got this system down, and I think we're looking good, sounding good. So here we go.
Awesome. And right away, everybody out there, we want to hear from you.
Absolutely.
So we've got an email set up, we've got a website set up, we've got Twitter set up, and we want to do key outs. We want to do shout-outs.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the segments that we're doing every show at the end of the show. But right away, just as you're listening and stuff, just be thinking about anything you want to share. But this episode, what we want to do is just talk about who we are and what we're doing. And this is the origin episode.
This is the number one, like the intro. What is it? The preface one.
The preface
to the actual thing. And I think that's important too, like getting feedback from you guys and just really interaction with you guys too. Because I think, it's one thing for us to sit here and talk about karate and everything it offers, but we want to know what you guys want to hear and what you're thinking or what you're finding on the web, whether it's a cool video or whatever it is, send it to us. Or if you're wondering something, got questions for us, absolutely. Send us a message, send us an email, and we'll answer it for sure.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, why don't we just explain who the heck we are? Because otherwise people are going to think, maybe we're just a yellow belt that just started.
That's true. That is very true. So, Richard?
Yes, I'm Richard.
Who are you?
Well, hey, I started karate, and we are in Canada because we're Canada. We're Canadians.
We are Canadians.
Good day. And this has been, I think I'm in my 30th year of doing karate now.
Wow.
That's right. And over 10 years in Japan. I think all the way back to when I started karate in the mid-'80s, I was always really curious about what's out there, and how can I find out more about it? And it wasn't always the greatest magazines or anything like that.
Right.
That was VHS land.
Yeah.
Or just barely.
Sorry, what?
Someone's younger than me.
Yeah, I don't know what those are.
Yeah, for you, like, K is on the way, just started, or it was a long time going. And for me, that just started yesterday.
Yeah.
So, training in Canada, then getting to go to Japan in the early 90s and finding out that I was no good and coming back and realizing I had to train better and get better. Being in Victoria in British Columbia, Canada, going to Vancouver, a lot more clubs in Vancouver, a lot more exposure to what's going on.
Definitely.
Obviously in our country, like lots of countries, we have a national karate federation that represents lots of different styles, which is in the World Karate Federation. So we're training with clubs that were here in our province, Karate British Columbia, Karate BC, and having my own club in Vancouver. And actually eventually I was teaching in about 25 schools.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, teaching in the PE classes like intro karate
Right.
while I was trying to be an athlete on the BC team and eventually a coach and going through courses at the National Coaching Institute on the West Coast, and then going back to Japan quite often. And my instructor in Japan was the coach of the Japanese national team. And actually, he ended up being my instructor just because he was my first homestay dad when I was in Japan. And they're talking to one karate group. They said, "Oh, go train with this guy." And I did. Oh, he's the assistant coach at that time. And then eventually he was my homestay dad. And then just keeping a connection alive.
Right.
His name is Toshiaki Maeda Sensei. And yeah, and then eventually getting invited to go to Japan to actually teach karate and see if I could do it. And at a full time at the oldest Japanese high school karate club in Tokyo as a head coach. Maybe a bit of a novelty at first for people outside, but the principle was like, very serious. You're going to train, see if you can get them to nationals and see if they can pass their black belts.
Sure.
And got them to nationals, I think 3-4 years straight in a row.
Wow.
And then got tenure and stayed there and got married, had kids. There was an earthquake in 2011. I started thinking about coming back, and then one of my really good friends, Craig Devlin, who's an assistant coach with the Canadian national team, lives here in Victoria, and he and I know each other from when we were teenagers. Really good friend, suggested that I come back and we open our own club here in Victoria, and we called it Kenzen Sports Karate because our clubs had always had the Kenzen name. And now here we are, 2 years later, we're celebrating the 2-year anniversary of Kenzen.
It's crazy.
This is how, I knew you from ages ago, but this is how I really got to know Kalan is when he moved to Victoria.
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes whenever we're training or whenever we're just talking or hanging out, I forget, man, Richard was in Japan for 10 years, like not that long ago. And then it's kind of funny sometimes, at the desk or whatever it is, I'll see some of your old Japanese memorabilia, I think ID card or something where you look 20 years younger, and I thought, oh man, I forget sometimes that you haven't been here the whole time. I mean, we've had so much going on here. I forget that you were in Japan for so long.
No, yeah, it was a long time. A blink of an eye. And there was a period there, maybe the 5th or 6th year, I had decided I wasn't coming back.
That's right.
I was just going to stay there. But being a high performance coach in Tokyo, I did really well. The teams did really well. I got to know right to the center of mainstream Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I was writing columns in the Japan Karate Federation magazine, and but I always had that sort of that itch to own my own club again and to do my own thing. And then, you walked through the door last year in September.
I did. I certainly did. Actually, you know what? It's funny as I was looking back at the old messages that we were sending back to each other and how we kind of first got hooked up after you had moved back. And it's just crazy thinking of what's changed since that time. And it was only, not that long ago that I was doing, just a year and a bit ago that I came here to Victoria. And so much has changed. It's crazy. One thing I wanted to ask you, though, was what do you find the main differences between training karate in Japan to how maybe we train it here in Canada?
Good question. Generically, obviously, they train longer or they train more.
Right.
It depends on the program. Like an elementary school program will be trained like here, like 2 or 3 times a week for an hour. But if you're in a club, in a high school or university, it's really all-encompassing.
Yeah.
It's 6 days a week, 2 to 3 hours, sometimes 2 to 3 hours in the morning, 2 to 3 hours in the afternoon.
Wow.
Your private club that maybe you started karate with takes a back seat, and your club instructor will think like, wow, you got into that high school and you're in the karate club, you're training all the time. That becomes your priority.
Yeah.
So volume is more. And now Japan is not as, everyone might think everyone's doing everything the same way and there's no individuality. But actually there's a lot of variety now in Japan.
Okay.
In terms of how people approach things, how talented they are, the WKF fighting style.
Right.
And there's a lot more richness in how, because it's just more depth in understanding kata and that sort of thing.
Sure.
And Tokyo is the mecca of everything. So everybody's coming through Tokyo.
Yeah.
As well as training there. So it's a little bit different. There's a lot of, like, that job was 6 days a week plus almost every weekend was an event. In the fall and spring, I worked 60 to 70 days straight without a day off.
Wow.
Yeah. My wife counted it very carefully.
I'm sure she did.
Yeah. And then here you obviously have, there's a lot of the same standards that we can be to, but there's a different vibe, you know?
Yeah.
When you join a karate club in Japan, you have like your parents, you have your teacher, and then when you join a karate club, it's like, oh, now you've got another serious relationship.
Yes.
And everyone knows, like, oh, it's Budo, it's martial arts. There's another heavy, important relationship you have in your life.
Yes.
But here, maybe a little bit lighter.
Sure.
A karate instructor at first may seem like a swim teacher or a soccer coach, but I think eventually it changes. But I've always been a very practical person, so I don't like anything that smells of a cult. Or hierarchy is forced on in a way it shouldn't be.
Sure.
And that can be just as strong on this side of the ocean as there.
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's, I think we're right now here with this club and trying to be an active member in mainstream karate. I think we are, it's kind of in the best of both worlds.
Sure. Yeah.
And just try and do our best. Now, what I think is interesting with you is, you've been here for a year. You've been, training hard, doing your masters.
Yeah.
And let's get into that in a sec. And helping out, and it's sometimes really hard to find people who are really awake and really into what they say they're into and can be really consistent.
Right. Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons that when this podcast came up and I was telling you about it and you're like, I want to do that too. And I was like, yeah, actually you should be able to do that because you've really shown that consistency. But what I thought was really interesting, they say, everything takes time, is that it's only this month that I think we just gave you the keys and said, you have access to dojo anytime you want.
Yeah.
And that was like a year.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of weird because I think we should have probably given you the keys earlier.
Yeah, wow.
Then I don't have to come and teach. But so everything is like time goes by so fast, but then a lot of things have happened.
For sure.
And again, this is the origin episode. We want people to know a little bit about us.
Yep.
And what we're doing. So let's talk a little bit about your background.
Sure.
How old were you when you started karate?
I was 7 years old when I started. Just turned 7 years old. And basically the reason I started, my older brother was in karate before me. So we had moved over from Vancouver to the island, Vancouver Island in Courtenay. And my brother was in karate before me, so he was in, and I used to always go watch. And I don't know, maybe I was about 5, 6 at the time. And I remember my parents used to always talk to Todd Robertson, who was my original sensei, and he said, we want to get Kalan in there, and he said, well, he's still a little young, but I was always there every day watching my brother and just getting excited and kind of looking in, and then finally when I was just turned 7, Todd said, okay, why don't we let him try it out, and he came in, and just ever since then I just kind of fell in love with the sport, I think, and just been training and competing ever since. So started when I was 7, so that was 20 years ago now. This will be my 20th year in karate. Started competing when I was about 12 years old, just at kind of local tournaments and some of the Vancouver tournaments. And then when I was old enough to try out for the BC team, that was in 2006. I went to my first national championship. And then I went to 8 total national championships. And my last one, I think, was in 2013 maybe. That sounds about right. 3 years ago, yeah. Just been training and learning lots, and I think one of the things that really drew me to karate was not only is it physically you exert yourself and it's tough physically, which I've always been a proponent for, but it's also an art, and I think that's something that really drew me in was your foot is here but maybe it's supposed to be here, or just those little intricacies that happen in martial arts. It's an art, right? You really, no matter how much you train it, you're not going to perfect it, but you really need to work to make it good. And that just always drew me in. So, just kind of fell in love with it when I was really young and just haven't stopped really.
Right on.
Yeah, it's been great.
That's awesome. It's almost like that you sensed at a young age that there was, if you put effort in, you're going to get something out of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And karate, I think, gives you almost initial feedback.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah.
You know, well, your instructor might say you're horrible, but you know, you keep moving forward. In Japan, almost the whole thing they always say is, you know, osoi means late. Osoi. Chigao, wrong. Chigao. But there are positive instructors there.
Yes.
But everybody feels that feedback loop. You know, so if the feedback is right, you can feel you're getting better.
Yeah, absolutely,
You know?
absolutely. And what I thought was, you know, actually, I was talking to my dad a couple weekends ago, and he was saying, with all the stuff that's going on now with us, with karate and that kind of stuff, he said, man, I'm sure glad we put you in karate instead of like archery or whatever it was. And I said, yeah, me too. I mean, because now obviously doing my master's degree in kinesiology at UVic, and it's just kind of rolled into my master's thesis work on karate athletes, you know, developing the standardized karate fitness test for karate athletes, and that's turning out to be bigger than I ever thought it would be, and you know, better than I ever thought it would be, really. So, I mean, just karate has really opened all these doors that I never, ever, ever thought would be possible, and it's, you know, it's like a new, like we've said before, it's like a new thing every week almost that's coming up, and it's just, I think, really unique that, you know, we're in this sport at this time, and that everything's happening.
No, that's cool. Yeah, my motto is there is no normal day.
Yeah, yeah.
And I always, you know, we talk about this every week, you know, there's always something new if you're trying to look for something.
Mm-hmm.
And not just new in terms of creation, but new in terms of relationships or things that you can participate in.
Sure.
And there's some very active people out there doing some really great stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's why I really wanted to do a podcast, because I've been listening to podcasts. I know you have been listening
Yes.
to them.
Yep.
And I was looking like, why isn't there one on the stuff that we want to talk about?
Yeah, yeah, for
right?
sure.
Like karate going to the Olympics, what's happening in the WKF, you know, breaking news, all that stuff. Why isn't there one? Until I realized, like, well, we're just gonna have to get out there and do it.
Just gonna have to start one.
Just gonna have to get out there and do it.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
then we have some pretty big projects that are going on. I think this is a really good way to share with people, you know, why it is we're doing it,
Yeah.
how it's getting there. Because there's sometimes a lot of misconception,
Yeah.
you know, about whatever someone or the quality or the reasoning or the goals of a project is good, but maybe the delivery didn't come across right, or
Sure.
someone got a misunderstanding, or this is a really good chance to chat about those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, I mean, there's nothing else out there for karate that's like this. So,
Exactly.
I mean, why not? Why not start one, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is where, you know, everybody listening in, you should write to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we're going to have, we'll talk about it again more, but we'll drop the hints as we're going along. That we were going to give shout outs, you know, what's going on, how's things going, what have you done with your tournaments, how did it go? But also at the end of the episode, we're just going to read off a list of tournaments that are happening.
Yeah.
So if you write into us and say, talk about my tournament, absolutely we will.
We will promote it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We love anybody who's active in karate.
Yep.
As long as all the motivations are in the right place.
Yeah.
You know? Well, let's talk about, you know, a little bit more about why not just 360 and karate, but what's the value of having a podcast? And I'll tell you for myself, there's a couple podcasts I really like, but there's one, and it has more adult content. So hold your ears if you're younger. But I like this podcast called Hollywood Babble On.
Yes.
Right? By
Yes.
Kevin Smith. and
Yes. Listen to
Ralph
it many
Garman.
times. Yeah.
It is hilarious.
Very funny. Very
Hilarious.
funny.
You know, these guys are Kevin Smith is an independent film director, and Ralph Garman is a radio DJ with 1,000 voices.
Yeah.
And I listen to it when I'm cleaning the karate club, and you know, they're you know, my age, right? Early 20s, haha, and plus 20, and they talk about all the crazy things happening in Hollywood, but about all their own projects.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And they have segments, and they have all kinds of hilarious music and stuff, and I just crack up like
They're
crazy.
brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. And this is a family show, so there won't be any blue content. And kids are like, "What's blue?" Mama, tell me what's blue is. Ask your father.
Yeah.
But I like the way that, you know, if the delivery is done in a way that's really accepting,
Yeah.
you know, and I like the way that they reach out to their audience so people can share and they can talk about it.
Yes. Yeah. Now
And
they do it in front of a live.
That's a really
audience.
cool thing. They do it in front of a live audience, and I think we should, you know, after we're, you we're 30, 40 episodes in.
Yeah.
We should do it after big events.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
And then have people there and have a really good time. So, and then the idea of 360 just coming from any different angle,
Sure.
Yeah. I think that's going to be really fun. So let's get into it.
Absolutely. One of the things for me that I think that I really value about doing podcasts, especially in karate, is, for me, I almost look at myself now as like a karate promoter almost, because often the times when you talk to other people about karate, they don't understand it, of course, to the level that we do, and probably most of our listeners do. But this gives us an opportunity to promote it, and I think one of the ways that you can really promote a sport is to get to know the people in the sport.
Absolutely.
So I think that's something that we're going to bring, and I think that's something that we can use for sure, and that's the value of this podcast, is that we can bring those stories that people won't hear or that they might not see, and that'll just bring more eyes to karate, and that'll just make the sport and this movement, I guess, even bigger. So,
absolutely. Well, first you said our listeners. Wow, we're gonna have listeners.
We are gonna have listeners.
Hi, Mom.
My mom is absolutely listening to this.
Yes,
so
mine will too. I think that's really good, and promoting. Absolutely, we're promoting it.
Yes.
And I think not just getting new people, but people in the karate world. We want to have something to talk about. When you talk to your friends, stuff, they kind of glaze over, but everyone's talking over a beer, or a drink or something, or meals when they're in the karate club. I think it's great if the karate community is so big.
Yes.
If people come together.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. I think when the WKF was doing their promotions over the years to try and make competition karate be still effective, but also be easier for more people to watch. And they were thinking about people outside of the karate world, obviously the IOC voting members. I always thought, if karate really has 100 million people training it or more, what we really need to do is connect with those people.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think we really need to promote things and do things and celebrate what other people are doing. And we're definitely going to celebrate people here on the West Coast and talk about them. Because our agenda is, of course, to promote ourselves here with the breaking news and all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
But I want to celebrate what other people are doing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think sometimes when you're in the karate world and you're talking to someone, they're so used to people having some sort of personal agenda they're trying to push forward.
Yes.
And I think it's funny when they bump up to me and they come, they're talking to me thinking that I'm thinking like that, and actually, no, I'm just thinking about how we can do something really cool.
Yeah.
Right?
Just trying to build the sport and trying to build this whole thing.
Exactly. It's like the karate club here. I think we do 20 classes a week, but we put in a ton of extra volunteer time.
Yes. Yeah.
Like in our club, I at the end of the day when we shut the club down, like the last class is done, I don't close the doors for half an hour or 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I just let people work out.
And they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what agenda is there other than, I want people to really feel that they're having a really good time.
Yes.
A long time ago, I used to host a tournament called the Vancouver Karate Cup, and we tried to make it really athlete focused. We found a venue where the parents could sit up high and they could watch all the rings, and it was really big, and we'd do a ton of fun stuff, and we did flying sidekick contests, and it was a lot of fun. I remember people saying to me, like, who's organizing this? And I'm like, oh, Richard's. Like, what? Richard's just an athlete on the BC team. And that, for a couple of years there, I was paying out of pocket to have the tournament, but I wanted to have an event, and there was a time when there wasn't that many tournaments.
Yeah.
There's still not that many in BC, but there are enough now. So, as promoting what we're doing, this is, when people listen to this, just remember that, we actually want to celebrate what everybody's doing.
Yeah. This is a 360 approach, a global approach. This is we're going all angles on this.
Exactly.
We want everybody to celebrate with us. It's not just two guys with microphones celebrating karate, talking about karate. We want this to be for everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so things that we want to talk about today. Let's talk. We want to talk about Kalan's amazingly interesting project. Doing his master's in kinesiology.
Yes.
Right? And how it relates to fitness testing and karate. We want to go into a whole bunch of not so little projects that I'm working on, right? And we want to talk about in all different ways about, karate getting in the Olympics.
We gotta talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about all the details that we know about. Let's talk about all the angles, the way you look at it.
Yes.
And then let's talk about the different segments we have here in the podcast.
Perfect.
All right?
Yeah.
But I really want to dive into what you're doing because it's unique.
Yes. Yep.
And without going over our heads with too much kinesiology theory and
the science talk.
The science
jargon.
talk, water it down for us.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, like Richard kind of said and what I said, do my master's in kinesiology at UVic here in Victoria. And when I first came here, I kind of walked into this degree, this master's degree, and I had no idea what project I was going to do. My supervisors, Dr. Linda Stewart-Hill and Dr. Kathy Gall, who are great and awesome at fitness testing establishment and all that, didn't really know what I was going to do. I was very broad, not sure what my project was going to be for my master's thesis. And then it just so happened that here in BC, there was kind of a review of Karate BC done by Via Sport, and they highlighted a couple things that they thought karate as a sport could use, and one of those things was standardized fitness testing. And so I right away looked into the literature across the world, and I realized there really is not a lot, hardly any research on fitness testing or fitness parameters of almost any martial arts. There's a couple in some of the other Olympic sports, but there's really not a lot out there. So I thought, wow, like every other major sport has brought the science of exercise to their sport. And it's not to say that karate hasn't, but they haven't brought it, I don't think, in a big enough capacity. So I just looked at it as an opportunity really for me and for karate and for us to put together, a standardized fitness test for karate athletes. And you might be thinking, well, what do we need that for? Well, I mean, like I said, every other major sport has fitness testing. You absolutely have to have it to measure your athletes, to see where they're at in terms of their fitness levels and how it relates to their performance. So one of the jobs that we have and that I've been doing is doing like a task analysis, they call it, of the sport of karate, which is just looking at what are the physiological parameters that relate to karate performance. So just by doing, heart rate measurements and video analysis, we were able to determine just different things, different parameters that relate to karate performance. And then now we're establishing tests, fitness tests that relate to those parameters, and we're going to be implementing them here in BC to the Team BC guys. And like I said, there's been nothing like this that's out there, and definitely in the karate world, and almost right across the board in the combat sports world. So it's an opportunity, just I think I'm not going to say for karate to catch up to the times, but almost for karate to take that kind of next step to being a recognized sport in even the exercise world and the fitness world.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, let me play the interviewer here.
Okay,
all right. So, why should someone actually do fitness?
Why should they do fitness
like
training?
So if there's 3 or 4 reasons to do fitness training, what would they be?
Sure. So, I mean, of course, one of the things that I've always kind of said to you and that we've kind of talked about is if you take 2 athletes who are exactly the same in skill level, so their skill in kumite or kata, whatever it is exactly the same, the one who has the greatest fitness level is going to most of the time win that competition, just because you need that high level of fitness, or you need at least a certain level of fitness to be able to perform, especially in competition. So as we know, I mean, I think you could probably, anybody who's done a competition can agree that competition is pretty grueling, especially over, a 2-3 day tournament. You're talking sometimes 4 divisions in those, 3 days. And by the end of it, you're kind of like, oh, I'm glad that's done, because that was a long 3 days, right? So you need to have a certain level of fitness level to be able to keep up with that. So you need, and by doing these fitness tests, we can say, when we do it on enough people, we administer to enough people, we can say kind of, okay, well, this is kind of the level that you need to be at to be a provincial champion, or to be a national champion, or to make it to the national team, or whatever. We're going to have those different standards and those different profiles of what that looks like. So that's definitely one thing that you need fitness for, is obviously to be able to compete at a high level. You just need fit. Of course you do. We're a sport. Almost all sports, especially the mainstream sports, require a certain level of fitness level. So you need to be training fitness to get there. and sometimes it'll just give you that extra edge over the other opponent, right? Whether you're stronger, faster, better balance, whatever it is, it could mean the difference between gold and not even placing or whatever it is.
So improved performance.
Improved performance is absolutely one of them. Also, I think it can also be used as a way to help athletes recognize what they can do to do better too. So that still relates to performance, yes, but you do your fitness to improve your performance, but you also can find out maybe where you're lacking in a couple things. So kind of what maybe you're missing the speed aspect, or maybe you're missing the balance aspect, or whatever it is. It can help with that as well. Does that kind of make sense?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, you want to increase what you're good at.
Yes. Yeah.
But you also have to improve what you're not as good at.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You want to become that well-rounded athlete. That's
Absolutely.
what you kind of need to do, right?
Now, for us older, overweight, hang on, I could put my beer belly on the table.
Come
on. Injury prevention.
Yes. Injury prevention for sure is, pardon me, a good thing as well, obviously. Not only, one of the big things with injury prevention is the best way to avoid an injury is to prevent an injury, and the best way to prevent an injury is through an injury prevention program.
That's like a T-shirt.
That is like a T-shirt.
Say that again.
I don't know if I can do that again.
The best way
the best way to avoid an injury is to prevent an injury, and the best way to prevent an injury is to to go into an injury prevention program. Yeah, I think I wrote that somewhere, I think.
Okay.
In one of my academic writings,
That's
I think.
Good.
So obviously injuries can set you back drastically or whatever it is, but just by doing an injury prevention program, which is something that we've really started implementing on a lot of the elite athletes at UVic, you can prevent those injuries from even ever happening. And a lot of the times we don't treat an injury. Obviously you don't treat an injury until you have an injury, but we don't even think about injuries until you have an injury. And then at that point, it's almost like it's too late.
Good point.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question then. Like, a common karate injury people get, whether they're competing or not, right, is their ACL.
Yes, ACL. Well, a lot of sports, ACL
yes,
injuries for
of
sure.
Course.
But yeah, karate as well, because it's a lot of plyometric movements and a lot of bounding and all that kind of stuff. A lot of, this is a kinesiology term, but a lot of stretch shortening cycle action, which puts a lot of stress on the tendons and the ligaments and the joints. And by doing that repeatedly and not having an injury prevention program, or not being well enough recovered, that can lead to injury, obviously.
What are things like really simple exercises they can do in a karate club to help prevent that type of injury? Sure.
What I always do, and what's a really easy thing to do, is if you're thinking about an injury prevention program, whether it's for common injuries like an ACL or maybe an injury that you've already have, is just think about, or if you can't think about it, look up what the muscles are that surround that joint, because every joint's got muscles that surround it. And actually, if you can do resistance exercises, so whether it's, free weights, dumbbells, or band work is really great for a bunch of different reasons. If you can do that kind of exercises on those specific muscles around that joint, the responses from that is that your tendons actually get stronger, and they actually get what's called more elastic, which means that they're more stretchy, and which prevents injuries. So a lot of adaptations that your body has to those types of training, so resistance training and band training and that kind of stuff, will help support the joints. So again, whether it's an injury that you've already had, just think about the muscles that are around it, or an ACL or whatever it is.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now I'm just excited, like, you study this stuff in depth, become an expert, right?
Yeah.
What's the title we came up with? What is the
Combat Sports Strength and Conditioning?
There. That
Coach.
Sounds awesome.
Special. It's great. And one of the things with this is I just obviously love the world of fitness. I'm in it academia wise and in my lifestyle as well. And it's just, there's so much to learn. That's one of the things that I always really liked. But and I think you're probably similar, as I just want to learn everything. So I just really like to dig in. So, and it's great because, and this is kind of for you guys out there that are listening, if you have any questions on any of that stuff, shoot them in for sure and ask. I can probably answer them. And the thing with me is, if I can't answer them, is I will find out for sure, because I know where to look, and I'm always in the scientific research and looking at that. So yeah, I just,
like those radio shows where you call in and go, okay, there's something wrong with the left wheel of my car. You know?
Yeah,
So we can,
for sure.
right, when I'm throwing my gyakuzuki and like my shoulders kind of popping out, right?
Yeah.
You know? Or all those Shotokan practitioners out there who have those long stances,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
They're going to feel it, their knees and their hips, you know? So
And I promise you it's a little bit different than WebMD, whereas you go, man, my shoulder hurts, and you look it up on WebMD, and obviously it says, oh, you have, you know,
you have
cancer.
cancer, you're
Or something.
dying in 2 months.
It's like, well, I don't know if that's true. So,
all right, so the fitness test.
Yes.
You're going to the BC team.
Yep.
How many exercises?
So the whole entire test itself is just seven exercises, and also what's called anthropometric measurements, so measurements of the human body, so girth measurement. We're looking more at length, so like leg length, wingspan, that kind of thing. And basically with those, what we want to know is it just gives us an actual idea of different levels of athletes, and, you know, do they have longer arms? Do they have longer legs? Do they have big feet? Whatever it is, those are the anthropometric measures. So yeah, 7 different tests.
Okay, let's list 7 in a row.
Okay, I should be able to do this. I put the test together. So we do agility test, and we won't really go into what the tests are, but we do agility test. We have a balance test. We have what's called an anaerobic capacity test. So that's just basically the ability to maintain bursts of high output, high bursts of output. We have aerobic capacity, and what's interesting with aerobic capacity is, I know a lot of the coaches that I've spoken to have always said, well, karate is not an aerobic sport, aerobic being a long endurance type sport. And if you think about it, no, you're right. One specific kata performance or one specific kumite match is not aerobic, but if you're going to a 3-day tournament, you're going to need some aerobic fitness.
Or a 3-day training seminar.
3-day training seminar,
You
yeah,
know,
absolutely.
you might just be a regular recreational athlete, and then, okay, all the green belts and above have to go to a training seminar.
Yes, and one of the probably more important issues even with aerobic exercise is aerobic exercise. The higher your aerobic exercise is, the better you can recover from those anaerobic exercises, which is what karate predominantly is anaerobic exercise. So where were we? I think we were on 4 or 5. So agility, balance, anaerobic capacity, aerobic capacity.
Aerobic capacity.
We have a flexibility test in there. We have the anthropometric measures. That was the measurements of the human body. Oh, and then we have anaerobic power. So we have upper and lower body power for that. So just basically how well you can output power in one specific go. So like upper body, you know, a punch or a kick, or, you know, we have specific tests to measure upper body and lower body power. But those are the other 2.
Well, and we should say there is the handbook for the test that everyone can read about.
Yes,
so we can put a link.
There is a manual. Yeah, there is
a
a manual, and it's it's a standardized.
You can find it at karate360.com.
There you go, a little plug right there, first one.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's there, and I mean, I think the good thing about it is it's not, you know, I put a lot of work into it, obviously, but I had also a lot of help in it too. So a lot of the top professors that are in fitness testing that have put together fitness testing for, you know, Rowing Canada and all that kind of stuff. My supervisors have all done that, as well as just, you know, I like to get information from everybody. I'm not trying to own, you know, this whole thing. Oh, this is all me. Everybody that I could have got help on this has helped me, and obviously I appreciate it.
Okay, to wrap up on the fitness test, tell me what it's going to be like when you've done all this testing after a year.
Sure. So, I mean, a year from now, obviously, my thesis will be done and will be published. I think, you know, as a certified strength and conditioning specialist for the National Strength and Conditioning Association, I can pretty much publish my work in the the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research. So it will very likely be published in there for everybody to see, but I think mostly for karate athletes and karate coaches to see. So, I mean, we're going to have all this data a year from now, all this data on all these athletes. I mean, there's just going to be so much data that we won't even know what to do with it all, but it'll be published and people will be able to see it, and I think it'll give...
On karate360.com.
That's, of course, on karate360.com. It will. Yeah, and it'll just give everybody a little bit better idea of, you know, fitness-wise, what does karate look like?
For sure. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it, and maybe this beyond what your thesis is. There's some sort of format of the data, so any karate instructor can go and look at it and go, I've got these athletes in age 8, 9 years old, and how could I train them a little bit better? And what is, even when I did the level 1 fitness testing in the club, how do they measure up?
Yes.
So, you know, if we go a little older, let's say the 12, 13-year-old divisions which we have in most countries at the national level, So if this is a national champion and here's the average, where are my athletes? And I think what most people would be quite surprised that people could train more.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and more fun in a more fun way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest benefits of that will be one of the biggest benefits of this project is just having all that information.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's great.
And again, they should come talk to you and learn how to train more.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I can certainly help.
How modest.
Yeah, well, I just confident more than anything.
For sure.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a lot about the fitness testing and what I'm doing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing and the things that
I
you've
do
done?
nothing.
That is not true. I know a little birdie has told me some things. And actually, it may or may not be true, but allegedly you have written a book.
I have written a book. Yes, it is pretty cool to see your name listed on Amazon and have an ISBN number beside it and stuff.
Absolutely.
So yeah, let me definitely tell you about the book, but also, and make sure I don't forget, I do want to talk about the Canada Open.
Yes.
That's going to happen next year. And I want to talk about the Combat Sports Summit that we're thinking about.
Yes. Yes.
I'm like, what? Yes, it's true. We're thinking about it. And talk about Kenzan a little bit. But Sunny Leads is the name of the book. Sunny Leads Volume 1. And when I was, in the 80s, early 90s, when I was thinking about it'd be great to go train in Japan, there was no really information about what it was like. There was no internet then. There's no really good books written about it. Even martial art magazines didn't really say anything. If you knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who had been there, and I heard from a couple different clubs, you have to make sure if you go there, you don't embarrass yourself, or you don't get it, or it's too hard. And then there were people who were saying that they had been there who hadn't been there. And so it was kind of like a weird mesh. So, I was doing Japanese studies in university. So, of course, then I was meeting people who had been there.
Yes.
And then hearing, things are actually a little different. So when I finally went over, I realized that my karate was really not that good. I was enthusiastic. And I had to really think about, is this really for me? And then so it's just like that movie Lost in Translation. You don't speak the language. I spoke a little bit because I'd studied it, but you have really no cultural clues.
Sure.
You haven't been there.
Sure.
And then having lived there for a while, then coming back and then traveling and then finally living there again, I started writing a book about what it's like taking lots of different stories for myself, for my own experiences and for my friends.
Yes.
And first, how many experiences were so similar? Like I thought this could have only happened to me. Some wacky thing happened to me. This absolutely only happened to me, and found out, wow, it happened to a lot of people. Holy, this is actually common. So I wrote this story, and then through my work, I had met this company called Manga University, and they produce Japanese educational books for people in English using the manga format.
Yes. Yeah.
So the Japanese comic book format, and they're quite popular. Like they've got a, manga Japanese cookbook, how to learn Japanese cooking through manga, which really actually makes a lot of sense because they had an artist draw exactly how you would cook something in Japanese food. And because it's illustrated, they can emphasize the key points.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes better than a picture.
Sure.
So got to know the president and his wife, and so I explained to them I wrote this book, and I was really thinking about trying to get it published. And then Kalan, the president, read it, and he said, really, this would be a great manga, because who knows what a 10-kilogram rice cooker looks like, what a dojo looks like. So we really started talking about it a lot. It became like a 4-year project where we were looking for an artist who could really draw. And we met lots of artists, and they could draw a beautiful kick, but it felt static because the person didn't know karate. Eventually, I was writing a bilingual column on karate for Japan Karate Federation magazine and JK Fan magazine. And they have a comic book author who writes a little comic strip, like a couple pages. And he was quite famous illustrator. His name is Genji Kamobayashi Sensei. And he was a professional illustrator and done a lot of very big titles.
Quite well known in Japan.
Quite well known, yeah. And he's also a Shotokan karate instructor, and he loves buying DVDs of WKF World Tournaments, and he knows tons of stuff, and he draws in a very natural style that's karate. Like you just go, yes, that's karate. Yes, yeah. And so we talked to him for like a year, and he agreed, and then the next year he worked on it. And then it's supposed to be 3 volumes, so the story continues through volume 2 and 3. And it just came out gorgeous. I mean, when I've gone on trips, I just came back from my trip in California where I was signing books and did a book tour, and people still go, can I get an 8x10 of that panel? And can I get it signed? So the book is basically the first volume is the first couple weeks when Sonny arrives, and he's totally like a fish out of water. He's in 2 different karate clubs. He's finding out about, his own value of karate, and he's trying to make friends, and he's really struggling.
Yeah, I think one of the things when I read it that kind of brought me in is, and maybe that's because it is a manga, it's like a comic book, is it almost brings you literally into the world of Japan. Like when you're reading it, it reads as if you're in Japan and you're reading it. You really get a sense of that. So it's unique for sure, and yeah, I mean it's awesome. Like
when I got there, I remember once I got picked up at the airport, right? On one of my many trips where I was going for a while, and my friend Koichi Nakano picked me up, and he had like a beautiful girl. He was trying to like schmooze, like, here's my international friend. We're gonna go to the airport and pick him up, and he drove me straight to the karate club. Like, after being on the plane for 10 hours, being exhausted, he's like, you have to go to the karate club right away. Yeah. Right? Let's go. I'm like, are you serious? And he was trying to be all cool in front of his friends, and he was really, he is a really great guy. Where like the homestay family was like priority like number 9 down on the list where I was gonna stay. It was like meet the karate teacher, train for a couple. It wasn't just like half an hour. It's like train for a couple hours, then go out for dinner with them, and So I wanted people to feel like they could experience it. And then if they go, they kind of feel a little bit prepared.
Sure.
Then in the back, I wrote essays and articles about what it was like to be a non-Japanese teaching the Japanese.
Yes.
Weird as like a Japanese person coming here to coach ice hockey.
Yeah.
And which I'm sure there are Japanese people coaching ice hockey, but it's that situation.
That feeling,
And then in the middle, at the end, to talk about what's actually happening in the karate world in Japan. And we know the famous old masters, the Funakoshi senseis and stuff. But do you know what's happening today?
Yeah.
Do you could you explain, or if you arrived there, would you know where to go?
Yes.
Who would you know where to train with? Do you know what elementary school kids do, and junior high and middle school and university?
Yes. Yeah.
And I wanted to explain that, so that would give the reader an idea of how the karate world is made up.
Sure.
And then because even here we barely understand it.
Yeah.
And there it's so much deeper.
Yes.
There's so many different levels. When I left Japan, I had I belonged to 6 local and 9 national karate federations. 9 karate federations total.
Whoa.
Like groups total. I had 9. Right? Okay, so there was 3 clubs. There's 3 clubs I trained with. There's 2 clubs that I ran. Okay, there's 5.
That's 5,
right?
I'm counting.
Okay,
Gonna run out of fingers soon.
Ready?
I got it.
Tokyo High School Karate Federation Club, Kanto, the Regional High School Karate Federation Club. I belong to JKF, the National. Okay, that's 8.
That's 8.
That's 8, right? I belong to the Masters Division, the Masters Association.
Okay,
that's 9.
9,
right? And depending where the karate clubs are training, I might belong to that city or that local. Oh, also the North Tokyo Karate Association. That's 10.
That's it. That's all I got. That's all the fingers.
That's all the fingers right now, right? That's 10. So, so that's how deep it is. So I wanted to explain that. So the book is great. They're about to start work on volume 2, which is really, act 2 of any story is always where all the fun happens.
Great.
Yeah.
And I hear you have some things going on, coming up. Tell us a little bit about Canada Open, for sure.
Yeah. So June 3rd and 4th, 2017, it looks like we're going to be hosting the Canada Open.
Canada Open. That's
exactly.
Huge.
Be the first Canada Open champion, the first National Open champion.
Yeah. And I think, and you could probably speak to this, but I mean, being a former athlete, and competing athlete, I should say, in karate, one of the biggest tournaments and one of the best tournaments to always go to was always the U.S. Open, at least here in North America, and you used to always get excited for that tournament. So to be able to bring something like that a little bit closer to home for us as the Canada Open, it just opens up a whole new doors for athletes right across the world, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I remember when I did the Vancouver Karate Cup back in the early 2000s. What do they call those? The naughties or something?
Millennials? I don't know.
Well, I think the 00s is like the naughties or the zeros. Anyway,
Whatever.
you tell us what they are. Write us in and let us
Yeah.
know. I remember that when the tournament I remember one year we had 500 people compete, which is pretty good. And our club members suddenly had this amazing experience.
Yeah.
Right? And when I came back to Canada 2 years ago in 2014, and I was hearing that, like, even here on Vancouver Island, parents were taking like their 8, 9-year-old kids and going to Las Vegas for the U.S. Open during spring break or the Easter long weekend. And they have 12 rings, like 1,200 to 1,600 athletes. And I'm getting, gotten to know a little bit the organizer down there.
Yep.
I'm thinking, well, we should have that in Canada. I mean, that interest is huge.
Yes.
And something really fun. And the Canadian National Championships has been held in Richmond, which is right beside Vancouver, at the Richmond Olympic Oval for, I think over the last 5 years, it's held 4 or 5 times there.
Right.
And it's a fantastic venue.
Yeah.
And now the Nationals from 2017 will travel to different cities every year.
Yes. Quebec City next year.
Yeah, and so we really should use that venue and offer everybody in the country a chance to come to an open tournament, as well as all the people in the States and around the world.
Yeah.
And so when I was on my book tour, and when I'm, I get to talk to clubs who buy like boxes of books because I have to go sign them. I tell them, hey, we're gonna have a Canada Open next year, June 3rd and 4th, and everyone's like, that's our open weekend.
Yeah.
We've always wanted to go to Vancouver. I said, well, the venue's only like 5 minutes away from the airport.
Yeah,
and there's
yeah.
free shuttle hotels and 15 minutes by train downtown. So yeah, it's an exciting part. I'm the event host or the event promoter.
Yep.
Karate BC is the event host. It's sanctioned by Karate Canada, and at the end of the day, it's gonna be hopefully a really great event for the athletes, for the club instructors, for the officials, for families, so everyone, June 3rd. 4th.
Yeah.
Mark it down.
Karate B. Where can they find more information on that?
At the karatebc.org
There we go. Yep.
website, and go onto the events page and look down, and it'll say Canada Open.
Or they can listen to the newest karate podcast,
Karate 360.
Karate 360, for more information, because we will absolutely still talk about that.
I'm going to talk about it every week.
I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're wondering, how often is this coming up? It's coming up every week.
Weekly. So Monday mornings is when they're going to be live, and you'll be able to get it. So every Monday morning, just subscribe. Just subscribe to us, and then every Monday morning, you'll be able to download our newest podcast.
Perfect timing. Before the Canada Open comes, we're going to have the British Columbia Open on December 10th, also at the Richmond Oval.
Yep.
And that'll be a great dry run for the Canada Open. Everyone, of course, is welcome to that event. That's a one-day event. We probably won't have all the divisions you can think of under the sun in that one because it's one day.
Yes.
But it'll be focused. But the Oval staff have been great. So also Saturday, December 10th, keep that date open, come to Vancouver, come to Richmond, and have a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be good.
Awesome.
Well, to finish off here, Richard, I think we should just maybe talk a little bit about the segments and what people can expect going forward from us and Karate 360.
Awesome. Let's go through them. So there's going to be the Ki outs at the beginning.
Yep. So just like a shout out, you guys.
Do you know Ki doesn't mean shout?
I'm not surprised. What does it mean? What is
Ki means energy and I means to unite.
Okay.
So, and did you know that any karate technique can have a Ki?
Okay. I did not know that. No.
but I mean, I don't believe in Ki. I don't have any superstitions.
Sure.
But the idea that, when you yell, you should still be able to have just as strong technique as when you're not yelling.
Of course. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But in this case, yes, we want to give shout outs.
Yes, shout outs. Ki outs, we'll call them. Ki outs.
Ki outs.
So Ki outs is going to be something that we bring. So we'll either come up with them, or if somebody has something special or some athlete that they want us to highlight.
BC Open, December 10th.
There it is.
Be there.
There it is.
Yep.
So write to us, and if there's anything, let us know. We're also going to do like breaking karate news. So anything that comes up, anything that happens.
Karate people breaking things, but breaking karate news.
No, yes. If I had a dime for every time somebody asked me, how many boards have you breaking in karate? Well, I might have a couple dollars.
Exactly. No, that's good. And if you're on Google News, you can, and when you log into your Gmail account, right?
Yes,
You can set any news item by a topic. So you can put in karate, you can put in Olympics, and it'll come down in the stream, right? So I would like to read that because now obviously I'm reading in English, and I also have one in Japanese, and so there's actually quite a few things pop up, not just local news, but sometimes really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And we can bring that up. I know that there's been some tournaments that have happened. We just had the Junior Pan Am Championships.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Right. The Senior Pan Am Championships were a few months ago. 2016 WKF World Championships are coming up at the end of October.
Yep.
And there's obviously, when you look at Sport Data, that website and that service, you see a long list of tournaments.
Yes.
So using the WKF rankings, we can look at the tournaments that just happened, and because one's really interesting thing is, when you think about the UFC and MMA, people really start following the stars of the sport, the up and comers and stuff, and they've got huge marketing machines behind them. But I think even in the amateur world, should be following, who are the top 10 in all the different divisions.
Absolutely.
Whether and juniors might change more than seniors, but that stuff can be quite interesting. And we're just so lucky in this second renaissance to have the YouTube.
Yes.
So one thing about Karate 360 is that we are going to be putting links to everything we talk about. So we talk about a tournament, or we talk about an event, and we can find the video. We'll put it up so you guys can follow us by looking down the webpage.
Yep.
And eventually we will actually be video recording this podcast.
Yes, that's right. And we will be broadcasting on YouTube.
That's right. We'll record it. It'll be on YouTube. Maybe sometimes we'll do a live YouTube session or Facebook Live or something.
Yeah.
So, Okay, so breaking news. Next one.
5 rings, which is something we didn't even get to today, which we were going to try and talk about, but maybe we'll save it for episode 2. But 5.
Yeah. Let's just do the highlights of the Olympics.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just do highlights. So August 3rd, the IOC voting members, of which there's 90 plus some honorary members, were voting on one question that was put forward by the Tokyo 2020 Summer Games Organizing Committee, is if they could allow 5 new sports to compete in the Tokyo 2020 Summer Games.
Let me do this. Hold on.
Yes.
Karate. Baseball. Surfing. Climbing.
Sport climbing.
Oh no. Surfing. Did I say surfing?
Roller skating.
Oh
no. Skateboarding. Yeah. So karate, softball, baseball.
Yeah.
Surfing, sport climbing, skateboarding.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And they all got in.
Yeah.
Now it's a one-time thing for Tokyo 2020, but in June of 2017, at the next IOC general meeting, they will vote on the entire package of all sports for 2024, the Summer Games for 2024. And I think that's when they're also picking the city for 2024, I think. Yeah. Paris and LA are on the list of potential cities. And I think if either country gets it, hopefully karate will be in there. Yeah. Now, in the Olympic Charter, it says that any sport can be pulled out. Now, right now, the Summer Games are at 28 sports, 10,500 athletes, and they tried to cap it there.
Yeah.
So these 5 extra sports are considered extras. Kind of in the old days, we would say they're a demo sport.
Right.
But they are full sport with full medal status, full points, but they will not have access to the IOC money that's generated from the games, from TV sales and advertising and stuff. Right. That would kick in 2024. And so, we got a ton of buzz in Kenzan because of the Olympics.
Yes.
Now, I always send out press releases about all the things that we're doing, and maybe 1 in 20 press releases, there's a bite by the media. Yeah. But when I send out a press release to all the local media here, almost all of them bit. Yes. And they really wanted to know about what was going on. Yeah. So, and you can we can put it on the website of all the articles, and TV cameras were in here, and they were here when we did the huge, when we were projecting the announcement on the wall, and we had 20 people here, and they videotaped us going, yay. Yeah. So, the Olympics is a really big deal because, it's recognition of how hard karate's been. Everyone's always thought it's in the Olympics. It's in almost everything. And I think another thing that's important is that in other sports, sometimes there's a pro element, like, in ice hockey. And in that age, like 9 to 12, maybe my kid will be one of those 1 in 1,000 that will make it through.
Yes.
And that's in a Canadian context.
Right.
And obviously that's other countries have other sports. But we can say that there's an Olympic pathway now.
Yep.
I remember teaching in one school where the wrestling coach came up to me and said, I'm an Olympic sport, so I should be allowed to be in the school, but you're not an Olympic sport, so you should not be allowed to teach in the school.
Okay.
And I was like, but we are in the local, we're in the BC Games or
everything else.
Commonwealth Games or Pan Am Games I think it changes something. So, yeah, what do you think?
No, everything you just said and more. I think it's great for the athletes, for the fans, for the sport. I mean, it's huge.
By the way, Kalan, congratulations on it.
Oh yes, thank you. Right. Yeah. Are you going to be there?
That's been the question, right?
Question. Are you going?
How many people have asked us that? Like, hey, congratulations, you made it to the Tokyo 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sport made it. No, like you.
Yeah.
When did your training start?
Yeah. Right. Well, come on now. No, yeah, I mean, huge news, obviously, for the sport and for athletes right across the board. It's exciting.
So if there's 100 million people approximately doing karate in the world, 10 million are competing at 2,000 events. And Karate by Jesse, I was watching, you guys should check out his videos and check out his website. He was talking about this, right?
Yeah.
It will be whittled down to 80 athletes.
That's right.
10 for women's kata, 10 for men's kata. There'll be 3 weight divisions for men and women, of which there'll be 10 athletes each.
For kumite, yeah.
Right? For kumite, for sparring. And right now there's 5 or 6 weight divisions. So for the qualifiers, in 2019 and stuff, they'll have to whittle those weights down. And that could be the continental games, like the Pan Am Games. These are big multi-sport events, the European Games, the Asian Games, that sort of thing. So it is only 80 people.
Yes.
Right? So it will be quite interesting, but we will be there.
We will be there. Yeah.
That's right.
Be good. Anyways, we're going to talk all about that.
Absolutely. Let's finish the segments.
Sure. So keep going on here. We're also going to probably talk on technical tactical. So looking at the technical aspects of karate, the tactical aspects of karate, maybe just breaking down certain moves or certain videos or whatever it is. We're also going to look at old school karate, so that's going to be another one of our segments.
We're going to break out the VHS tapes.
Or what? I don't think I have any of those.
I have me in black karate uniforms.
Actually, you know what? That's not true. I do have VHS videos. The first, I think I was probably about 10 years old, and there's a video of me in one of my first karate tournaments. And I think on there it says Killer Kalan or something like that. My dad put on there.
That's
it's a VHS
awesome.
video. Yeah, it's really cool.
I think one thing with old school karate is now we can actually see videos of karate back in the 30s and 40s and 50s. And
yes, yeah.
I did my master's at Sophia University in global studies, and my thesis was on the globalization of karate.
Right.
There was 5 phases. So in another episode, I'll talk to you about those 5 phases.
Great.
And how karate fits into them. But I think we can have a lot of fun. And again, put the links to the videos that we're talking about.
Sure.
And
if there's any videos out there that you guys know or that you've
seen,
send them our way.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about them, and when we get the YouTube video feed going, we'll show them.
If you have Keelan in his black uniform when he was 7, send it our way.
Yeah. Mom, please don't.
No, that's a really good point. Like, when people have got a really interesting video, send it our way.
Yeah. Japanland.
Yeah, so we've got a really great connection to Japan. I mean, I can literally phone JK Fan Magazine and the JKF office and bring them into the show if we really had to. And let's talk about what's happening in Japan. Japan is really great with social media. I think the highest number of Twitter users are in Japan, highest or second highest. Maybe not in number of people who have accounts, but the amount that they use Twitter is huge. And they talk a lot about everything, so we can bring in some really interesting stuff. There's some really key events that happen in the year, and we should talk about those when they happen.
Yes.
Could be when they do the big 8th Street black belt test in Japan for all the styles. Like If you're in the Japan Karate Federation, it could be about what's happening in Okinawa. It could be Japan National Championships, how they pick the national team. There's quite a few things that are interesting there in the background. We've got some really great friends, especially at the Budo University. Next one, karate fitness. So we talked a little bit about that, but more.
Yep.
Karate fitness.
We'll get into more. Break down how to train for karate. Maybe break down common myths. If you guys have any questions, send them our way, and we'll break them down. So anything that's related to karate fitness, that'll be in there.
Kata of the week.
Kata of the week. So every week we're going to go over a specific kata, look at different aspects of it. Take a 360 approach to it, and it'll be something new every week.
Awesome. Shinpan-ru.
Shinpan-ru. What is that?
Shinpan means official, Ru means style, and Namiki Sensei, who is a top official in Japan, said that when you're studying to be an official, it's another version of studying karate, which is very true.
Yep.
To have really good, as Norma Foster Sensei says, good balls in your eyes, in your head. To see.
Yes,
I think that's the line we're right on the line.
We're right on the line. We're okay.
They put it in the cover of Burnaby News magazine, so no problem. But she's right, and so with Namiki Sensei is that learning how to be an official is a really neat new layer to training.
Yes.
And so he calls it Shinpan-ru.
Yeah.
So officials tip. Talk about officiating, talk about the rules, what happens when they change. Mainly we're going to look at the World Karate Federation rules, but we'll talk about other things that relate to it.
Sure.
And our opinion. Oh, I want to talk about our opinion in one sec before hang up the dials here. Academia.
Yep.
You're doing your stuff, and it's really neat. It's because what you've done for your grad work and what I've done for my grad work is all related to karate, but in really different realms.
It's great. Yeah.
So as we know, Kalan's doing his master's in kinesiology related to combat sports and karate specifically, and I did my master's in global studies, and I looked at the globalization of sport. I also looked at human rights education and how people are educated, and that really helped me when I thought about sport and how it goes around the world. There's another topic that I actually just wrote down because I was listening to a podcast, and we've been talking about with John Kavanaugh, who is the coach for Conor McGregor.
Yeah, the McGregor, the notorious.
The notorious, UFC fighter. He's quite famous. And John
quite famous.
Super famous. I mean, crazy. So
superstar status.
Yeah. So he was on a podcast. He wrote a book called Win or Learn, and that book has just been awesome. And his instructor is in Portland. His name is Matt Thornton. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yep.
And his approach to martial arts. He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, Jeet Kune Do guy. But one of the things I really love about him is he's really tries to remove superstition from martial arts training.
Yes.
And just talk about what's practical.
Yes.
And he'll show he'll give a talk and he'll show a video of someone using their ki to block someone else's ki, or someone who's doing attack, but once they get touched, they just jump around and they fall down and stuff.
Yes.
And when we do kata, it can almost look kind of like, what are you doing? Is it esoteric? And what's the meaning? And it's an exercise. Kata is like an obstacle course.
Yes.
Done right, it has really great benefits. But let's, at the same time, we make sure we don't delude ourselves that doing a kata will teach you how to get someone off you on the floor or something. Yes. So that's actually one thing I want to bring up, and especially if it's like a wacky video of superstition in the martial arts.
Great.
And that I really hate anything to do with a cult, anything around karate, or I think it's good that if someone's teaching you or coaching you, you listen to them, you follow their advice and stuff. But there's sometimes where things go too far. And that's not just in karate, it can be in anything. So that is another segment I've been thinking of. Lastly, while we sign off, and some of you out there, and there are comedians and other podcasters who say this, and I really want to throw this in. 20% of you out there are just loving what we're saying. Just loving it. They're going, yeah, that's our boys. Talk. Say anything you want. I could say I'm going to show you how to do a flying sidekick through a window of a car and land on your feet, go into a roll. Yeah.
All about it.
All about it. 20% of you are just loving this. And thank you very much. We love you
Absolutely.
too. Then 60% of you are like you're actually critically thinking about what we're saying.
Yeah.
You know, like you're listening to it and going, you know, they could have said that, less ums here. Maybe I would want to say something differently. And you're the group that, you know, we want, the first group, of course, too, but we're the group that we want you to fire us stuff back.
Absolutely.
Right? And we want to engage with you. And, of course, this is a very public format that we're opening ourselves up to. And it's kind of intimate because, you know, when you're wearing the headphones in your ear and you listen to a podcast, you can, like, I know the ones I really like, I almost feel like they're my friends because I'm so listening to them. So that 60% of people listening, you know, who are really thinking about what we're saying and have different opinions and stuff, sending it to us. But then there's the last 20%. And they are just on a loop in their head right now of like, I can't believe they're saying that. I can't believe they're saying that. I can't believe they're saying that. I cursed the day they were born. I can't believe they're here.
The haters.
The haters.
The
like,
haters.
You know, I could say like, you know, the karate uniforms are white and the sky is blue. Like, how dare you? You know? And we're probably going to hear from those ones too.
That's perfectly fine.
We might not be replying to them. And so this is our opinion. You know, this is our opinion.
Absolutely.
We come with a lot. I mean, between us, we're probably coming up on 50, 60 years of karate.
Yeah.
We've got some really amazing people that we're interacting with. And we want to celebrate this fantastic martial art. But this is our opinion about how we approach stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we want to make people think. We want to entertain, but we want to make people think.
Sure.
You are going to hear all the Chuck Norris jokes.
Oh, here we go. As if you haven't already heard them all.
Yeah, well, I think there are some people, the younger ones, who don't even know who Chuck Norris is.
That's true. That's very true.
You know, like who is Chuck Norris? You know, and we're gonna bring up the karate memes. You know.
Yeah, everything that's out there.
She told me to get a life. So he took hers. And those are bad.
They're bad.
And we do not condone violence. So yeah, this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
This is going to be fun.
It's going to be lots of fun. And like Richard said, it's a back and forth thing. We want to hear from you guys. We want to know what you think. You know, we have no problem with you critically analyzing things we say. We're all for discussions. And let us know. Let us know anything that's on your mind, anything you're thinking, anything that's coming up in the karate world, anything maybe that you thought we should have said, and we'll bring it up.
Yeah, and if you're at an event, something really cool happened, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, and if you've got a tournament coming up, let us know about that. We're now it's September 2016. We're going into the fall. So West Coast Open is going to happen in Lakewood, Washington.
Yep.
There's the Campbell River Challenge in Campbell River. It's going to be on October 29th. The Saddle Cup will be in Burnaby, right beside Vancouver at BCIT on November 12th. The BC Open will be Saturday, December 10th. Come one, come all. And then we'll get into the new year.
Yeah.
So we did some shout outs.
Yeah.
And look forward to hearing from you. Episode 1 in the can.
It's great. It's a good start. And, I mean, we're just going to keep on going, keep on keeping on, and it's going to be good.
That's right. We'll be recording Thursday or Friday night, and we'll be putting up the episodes Monday morning. And thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks to you. Follow us on Twitter, Karate360. Go to our website, karate360podcast.com, for all the information on this. And anything you need to know, Facebook, Karate360. Let us know. We look forward to interacting with you guys and talking about all that is great in the karate world.
Awesome. I'm Richard Mosdell at Kenzan Sports Karate here in beautiful Victoria, British Columbia.
I am Kalan Anglos, also at Kenzan Sports Karate in beautiful Victoria, British Columbia. Thanks for listening, guys, and we will talk to you next time.
All right. Take it easy.
Bye.